for formulating and developing and coordinating all policies, programs, and plans affecting more than 3,500 Nevada Army and National Guard personnel. He's responsible for both the federal and state missions of the Nevada National Guard. General Burks serves as the governor's principal advisor on all National Guard issues and serves as the official channel of communication with the National Guard Bureau, the Department of the Army, and the Department of Air Force. He received his commission as first lieutenant in 1978 after graduating from the University of Nevada in 1976. Over the last 40 years, he has served numerous positions, not only in Nevada, but at the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. as well. He has received numerous awards and decorations, including the Meritorious Service Medal with 1 bronze oak leaf cluster and the Distinguished Flying Cross and the Legion of Merit. He was promoted to Brigadier General on April 16, 2007. Please welcome with me Brigadier General William R. Burks.
I want to thank Fred for that kind introduction. I'd also like to thank everyone for coming today, but most of all, the family and friends that we remember today. The distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen in the audience, but most importantly, let's thank all of Americans, veterans, and their families that are here today to celebrate, remembering those that gave their so much. Last, but by no means least, the volunteers of Operation Battleborn, the Ruck March. Let's give them a big hand. I've never walked that route, but 370 miles on foot, carrying 6,987 dog tags, including 57 that belong to Nevadans, is just simply amazing. I also want to thank the sponsor for today, the Northern Nevada Veterans Coalition, and today's host, Nevada Department of Veterans Services, for this annual event. It's truly an honor, and I'm humbled to be here. So just why are we here today? We're here because it's important to remember and honor the brave and selfless men and women and their families who paid the ultimate sacrifice while fighting for our nation's wars. For me, I think of that bygone era of 18 and 19-year-old service members who stormed the beaches of Normandy or in the numerous islands in the Pacific, who never had a chance to marry their sweethearts back home, have a family, or any semblance of normal life. The scenario has repeated itself time and time again throughout our entire history as a nation. From the War of Independence to the War of 1812, the bloodiest of all of our conflicts, the Civil War, the Spanish-American War, World War I and World War II, Korean War, the Vietnam War, and the continued conflicts in the Middle East. I may have forgotten a few, but you get the point. However, I think Colin Powell said it best on February 14, 2002, when he asked how he felt representing a country commonly perceived as the Satan of contemporary politics. His reply was simple. He said, "Far from being the great Satan, I would say we are the great protector. We have sent men and women from the armed forces of the United States to other parts of this world throughout the past century to put down oppression. Amen. We defeated fascism. We defeated communism. We have saved Europe in World War I and World War II. We were willing to do it. We were glad to do it. We went to Korea. We went to Vietnam, all in the interest of preserving the rights of people. And did we ask for any land? No. The only land we ever asked for was enough land to bury our dead. And that is the kind of nation we are." Today started out as Decoration Day, post the Civil War, and later changed to Memorial Day. During the Civil War, citizens would gather to decorate the graves of soldiers killed in action on both sides. As it was during our nation's bloodiest conflict, it remains important today that we pause to reflect upon the sacrifices of all the men and women killed in war and in all of the veterans served at cemeteries throughout the world. Arguably, the two most famous veteran cemeteries are Colville-sur-Mer above Omaha Beach on the Normandy coast, and the ancestral home of General Robert E. Lee, Arlington Cemetery. If you were ever near them on any of your adventures in life, you owe it to yourself to visit them. I guarantee you they will touch your very soul and possibly change your life. During a funeral service last month at Arlington National Cemetery, the Nevada Air National Guard had the distinct honor to recognize one of our own lost more than 6 decades ago during the Korean War. Lieutenant Frank Salazar, a pilot, was one of the original members of the 192nd Fighter Squadron, the first Nevada Air National Guard unit formed in Reno in 1948. Salazar was an active member of the community in northern Nevada. He worked hard as an engineer overseeing the post-World War II conversion of Stead Air Force Base, the first home of the Nevada Air National Guard, before it moved to its current location in 1954 at the south end of Reno International Airport. In 1951, Salazar and 442 other Nevada Guard airmen activated for federal service during the Korean War. Salazar flew several combat missions over North Korea and received the Distinguished Flying Cross. But Salazar was never to return to northern Nevada. On December 31st, 1952, Salazar's P-51 Mustang was shot down during an air interdiction mission over North Korea. The U.S. Air Force initially listed the 27-year-old pilot as missing in action, but declared him deceased in 1954. Diana Sanfilippo, Salazar's daughter, who lives in Lake Tahoe, was only 4 years old at the time when Salazar left for Korea in 1951. She always wanted to know more about her father. Recently investigating his military records and speaking with pilots he served with, in what she described as an experiential way to reconnect with her father, Diana also earned her pilot's license in order to pursue one of her father's greatest passions, that of flight. A few years ago, she even got the chance to fly a P-51 Mustang, the Nevada Air Guard's first airframe. Last year, knowing her father never received a formal military funeral, Diana requested a long-awaited funeral service at Arlington National Cemetery. On April 18th, that request came to fruition, and members of the military and Arlington National Cemetery held a funeral for her father. A C-130 from the 152nd Air Wing, Nevada Air National Guard, performed the flyover during that service. It was a great honor for the Nevada crew to be there that day, proudly flying overhead during the funeral. After the funeral, Diana said she was surprised at how she responded emotionally through that memorial service for her father. And I quote Diana, "I thought I would break down during taps, but I just felt joy. All my life, I wanted to be honored. It was a weight I didn't know I was carrying." End quote. We carry as citizens of this great nation the freedoms we enjoy from the sacrifices many have given, and need to recognize those who died fighting for this nation. This Memorial Day, as we spend time with family and friends, please take a moment to remember the fallen members of our armed forces throughout this country's history, including those like Lieutenant Frank Salazar, a local from the biggest little city, and thousands of other Americans from every corner of this nation. They all have their own particular story, just like Frank Salazar. Also remember the words of one of our forefathers, Thomas Paine, whose words express the reason and the need for such sacrifice. Those who expect to reap the blessings of freedom must undergo the fatigue of supporting it. So as you walk these hallowed grounds today, make sure you thank our heroes for their sacrifices and think of their stories. May God bless those we honor here today and their families. And may God bless all of you, this great nation, and the great state in the Union, the state of Nevada. Thank you.